So, Danielle, thank you for your time and for accepting our invitation.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I would like to start by, when it comes to meetings and events, what does environmental design really mean? And why does it matter?
Well, I mean, first up, events are a major opportunity for us to think about our influence and impact on the world. And that includes nature, not just, for example, our carbon impact. But on top of that, meetings and events provide us with major opportunities where people are taking time out of their day-to-day work life, and it can give us moments to connect with nature. And that gives us a range of different benefits. So, for example, just glancing at nature out your window can improve your memory, your productivity. So ultimately, they're a foundational part of what a meeting, an event could be and how it can achieve its outcomes.
Mm-hmm. And for instance, how venues are adapting to this challenge?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we've got a range of ways that different venues are meeting the call to actually care for nature. And one, of course, is looking at your supply chains. Who's providing the services, the food, whatever is required, the transport needed for that particular venue. That all factors into it. But of course, it's how we design our venues as well. So, for example, providing outdoor spaces, places where people can connect in a different way, where they can recharge, and building those into event design so that they can be fully utilized.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us a few examples on how you can change things in the environment and what kind of impact this can have on attendees, for instance?
Yeah, sure. So drawing on some examples I've seen through a bit of research around the place, there is, for example, ways to support people to connect in a different way from what you might get in the meeting and event forum or venue. So, for example, tree planting days. It's a classic example. So one option, of course, is to have tree planting funded by event attendees, but it's a whole other to actually have them involved in it. That creates a moment where people are working alongside each other. They're having conversations that they might not have in an interior space. These sorts of activities, they really do enrich people's experience of an event itself, but actually deepen a connection with the place and the people they're working alongside. So that's, I guess, one extreme end, get people involved in regeneration of nature on the ground. At the other end, you could, for example, simply be building elements of nature into your event itself. And, you see that quite often, for example, through bringing plants into a venue itself. So there's lots of different ways across a huge spectrum of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And how about the way, for instance, colors or sounds can impact the way we perceive an event or simulate ideas, learn? What can you tell us about that?
That's a really good question. Colour is definitely not my area of specialty, but what I do know is that from a psychological perspective, looking at views of, for example, trees, they provide us with a moment for what's called attention restoration. So you can look at those views and you don't have to think hard. You don't have to focus on any one particular thing. And the act of doing that is quite liberating for our brains. If you think about sitting there at your email or sitting focused on a presentation, just that moment to glance at a green space is really very restorative. So there's aspects like that. In terms of sound, there's a lot of research now that shows the well-being benefits of bird sound, for example. So that, again, that ability to restore, relax, stop focusing on everything with that great intensity that we're so good at, especially in a meeting or event. That is a very important element of just enabling us to step back and relax.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that attendees are open to that kind of, I don't know if they are changes, but that kind of approaches?
I'm not sure. I think that it's probably quite variable. I think that it appears from what I've experienced at this event, there is a direction of travel towards, I guess, creating those moments of time in any event that do reflect that wellness purpose, that ability to restore, that ability to connect outside of that intense, networking framework. So it does seem to me that's a direction where this industry is going. I mean, I'm not heavily involved in the industry, so this is from an outsider looking in.
Okay. And at the same time, do you think that event planners are aware of these kind of issues, or are open once again to incorporate these learnings in their events?
Yeah, the conversations I've had is there is a great eagerness and interest. I think the challenges it seems that we're facing are a high level of administrative burden, of reporting frameworks, sustainability, and so on. And I do wonder the extent to which sometimes it's so easy for us to end up in that reporting intense framework and actually looking at these other opportunities, which are more about the human-focused approach, that human-centered approach. That is an area where we could perhaps deepen our efforts and insights.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking if we can connect this, for instance, to silent rooms or safe rooms for people that have more difficulty on dealing with all the stimulus that they get during an event, and we see more and more these kind of spaces inside venues, on events. How do you see this shift?
Yeah, that's a really exciting shift. That is very much about accessibility for a range of people, isn't it? I think that the opportunity to embrace nature as part of this is really significant, and rooms are one thing, but actually what are the outdoor spaces that we have around the venue, around the city, that we could connect with and use as part of the solution to this challenge? I think that's a crucially important element is that place-centered approach. The green spaces that are available, here in Borto, we have this incredible river right by us. That is a place for restoration, for gaining, a moment to recharge and relax. So how do we embrace those places as part of this wider approach that we have?
Mm-hmm. And do you think that here technology can have a role, or it's a moment where you get rid of technology and just relax?
That's such a good question. I think it's both. Technology, it has a role in helping facilitate our experience in any environment, really. So is there a moment for technology to I guess, encourage us, to support us in figuring out how we might engage with those local spaces? But actually, when we're there, it's that the moment to pop the phone in the pocket and leave it and look up instead of looking down. So I think there's a role, and maybe it's about encouraging, but perhaps there is that moment to just step away and be a human without tech for a moment.
Okay. And how about the future? What would you like to see happening on events more often, and how they could be made differently?
Yeah, for me, so my background is in conservation, biodiversity, nature conservation. So I think that events have a massive opportunity, to connect people with place, to connect people with nature, but actually to be part of regenerating nature. And that's about the choices we make in terms of those activities. I went to that extreme example of tree planting. It's not a crazy idea that could be a moment in an event where people are actively part of restoring nature in a landscape. But there's a whole suite of things that come with that, or perhaps are not extreme. For example, legacy gifts to local conservation groups, bringing local professionals in conservation into the event to talk, to provide that sense of connection to place, to nature. There's, I think, enormous opportunity in this industry to really leave a lasting impact that is incredibly positive and incredibly good for local nature outcomes. And we need that right now. Nature is in trouble, and events can be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that when we look at the newer generations, things are slightly different in terms of their expectations, the things that they bring events eventually, of course. How do you see that?
It's really interesting. I just dabbled in reading the research in this quite recently, actually, but there's definitely evidence that millennials, and to a great extent Gen Y, are looking for opportunities that help them realize their aspirations for the world, their values. So, for example, a choice of employer. They're looking for a values-aligned employer. They're not just looking for a paycheck, of course, these days. And I suspect the same with events. You know, they want to see their own values, their own perhaps light footprint on the world reflected in that event. And I think that's a really important and very exciting opportunity for us to step up and meet that.
Okay. And how do you see this connection with ICCA, a forum like this one that we have here in Porto? What would you like to take from this experience?
Well, as someone not, and as I mentioned, not involved heavily in the events industry, coming here it's been a light bulb moment for me. Just seeing the diversity of people who are here, who are interested and excited about making a legacy impact for this industry on the world, and that's a really wonderful thing to have. It's a very interesting collection of people who come from all different walks of life. So for me, seeing this particular Congress, it's focused on sustainability, it's focused on showing how you can engage participants in different ways and in a way that promotes wellbeing is really insightful and exciting.
And do you think that nowadays, I mean, we as publishers have been talking about sustainability on events for many, many years, and sometimes it's not easy because at the end of the day, when we have to talk about costs and numbers, and things get a bit rough. And how do you see the moment in terms of sustainability and events?
Yeah, I had this amazing conversation with a bunch of people yesterday morning at the Charting the Course session at ICCA. It really focused on how and whether we can support local suppliers to step into the space of providing options that support sustainability at costs that are affordable or at least comparable to other costs. I think that the conversation really did show that this is possible, but it does need that home ground, that venue ground connection with local producers, local suppliers to enable that happening. I also was fascinated by some conversation about certification approaches and how quite often they might perhaps exclude some smaller businesses. That's kind of a perverse outcome if that's what's happening. And I think maybe taking a deeper look at those processes, are they achieving what they want, what we want them to achieve, and how might we tweak the system to ensure that actually we are supporting local, we are enabling those small family businesses to be part of that sustainable future.
You talked about the opportunity to speak with people from different continents with different background, etc. Do you think there's truly something in common on all of these people, despite all the differences in terms of geography, education, etc., etc.?
Absolutely. It sounds like everybody is facing the same type of challenges, which is tricky, of course. We're facing challenges, but actually it means we're unified and trying to look for the solutions. And a Congress like this really does provide that opportunity to share those solutions and look for how we might bring them into different places around the world.
Okay. So, Danielle, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.